My name is Gabe Walsh, and I am the legal counsel for the Iowa Association of Realtors. Many of you have talked to me or had conversations about issues on the legal hotline. I have with me today a guest, George Gomez. George is a real estate attorney, has a practice, and is the founding partner of Gomez May law firm, and they practice in both Iowa and Illinois. So, George, great to have you here today.
Thanks, Gabe. I appreciate the invite.
And what we're going to talk about today, unfortunately, in some ways, we're not going to have a specific yes or no answer for you. What we're going to talk about is a common occurrence that we're hearing about and some of the different overtones that can have in the law.
Yes, Gabe, the thing we're going to talk about today, the issues we're going to talk about today really are important for realtors to understand and to address, because it's going to put the realtor in a position to where they have to make decisions ethically and morally.
And that situation that I've been hearing about a lot, that I want to discuss, involves radon and listings. What we're hearing about a little bit is that listing agents in some situations across the state are putting in their listings that the sellers are not going to mitigate radon, and if buyers want to conduct a radon test as a part of their inspection, they're free to do that. However, the seller's agents are saying in their agent remarks that they don't want to know anything about the results of these tests, and that these radon results are for buyer's knowledge only.
Yeah, Gabe, that really puts both listing agent and buyer's agent in a very, very difficult situation. And I'm going to tell you why I say that. Part of why I say that is because all realtors have duties to all parties in the transaction. They have duties to all parties in the transaction, providing brokerage services to all those parties. They have to provide those services honestly and in good faith. And by not disclosing that, are you really providing those services honestly and in good faith?
And then, George, that's important, but in that same license law provision in Iowa law that talks about duties to all parties in a transaction, right underneath that is duties to your client. And what you know is one of the things in the code that it says is you must place a client's interest ahead of the interests of any other party, however, providing that it's not violating some other statute.
Yeah. And that's where a lot of the issues come to head, right? Because now that realtor is in a situation to where they know they have to, per law, provide the transaction honestly and in good faith to all parties, but then their primary obligation is to their particular client. So which way are they going to go? So now we have ethics and now we have morals. What's the right thing to do? What do my rules tell me to do?
And to make things even more complicated, we talked about the license law stuff, but as we know, as a realtor, you're bound by the Code of Ethics.
Yes, you are.
And what Article 1 of the Code of Ethics basically says is that you have to treat all parties in a transaction honestly. Yes, you have to keep the interest of your client primary, but that doesn't alleviate your duty to be honest to all parties in a transaction. So, George, it seems like in a situation like this, there's kind of a lot of different things sort of coming into contact with each other and hitting each other right on the head.
And there is, Gabe. And as I said earlier, what is the realtor to do? What is the realtor to do? And I think the realtor in this situation cannot act too hastily. I think they have to take a step back, analyze the situation, see what the alternatives are. What does my code tell me? What does my code tell me to do? How does my code lead me down that road? What does my inner compass tell me the right thing to do? And then put those together and come up with a resolution that's going to protect not only yourself but also your client.
And in this radon situation, there's always debate in the general public, how serious of an issue is radon. Lots of houses in Iowa with our soil, people say have radon, those kinds of things. But at the same time, what really are the obligations? Because on the one hand, there's nothing requiring a seller to have a radon test before listing their house. But at the same time, the administrative code mandates that if there has been a test, that they are obligated to disclose the existence of that test as well as any of the results.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it mandates. And again, that puts that realtor in a situation. So I think realtors representing sellers have to educate those sellers and tell those sellers, look, if this test is going to be done and we know the results, we have a duty to disclose what those results are. We have a duty to be honest to all parties in the transaction.
And anytime you're in these sort of client situations, it's also important not to disclose confidential information, correct?
Confidential information is key. Confidential information is key. Again, with that in mind, along with Article 1 and the other ethical codes that address this issue, the realtor's put in a difficult situation.
And it is a difficult situation because here, basically what's happening is the sellers are saying, look, we don't have to have a radon test. and we haven't had a radon test, and we're not going to pay for anything to fix it, even if there is radon, so just don't tell us anything about it.
I still believe that that does not alleviate the realtor's duty to treat all parties in that transaction honestly. And my takeaway to the realtors would be, take your time on this. Take a step back, analyze the situation, see what rules govern you, see what you think is the right thing to do, and do the right thing.
I think it's important in any of these situations to always analyze these problems with all these provisions in mind, to realize that a lot of times there's a lot of moving parts. There isn't always a clear yes or no answer, and you're going to have to make some judgment calls down the road. And obviously, if you need help doing that in any particular situation, we always encourage you to talk to your own private legal counsel to see what your obligations are.
Good advice. Talk to your lawyer. Don't do the wrong thing. Don't hastily do something because you feel you need to do it at that time. Take your time. You'll do the right thing.
Well, George, again, I appreciate having you here today. Appreciate having this important discussion. And please remember to get on IAR's website, and under the legal tab, you'll find all the information to contact the legal hotline. And we're here at IAR to help you in any way we can.
Thank you, Gabe.